I'm the Director of Curriculum and Assessment for Coeur d'Alene School District, and it's time for our annual review of procedures around the Idaho Reading Indicator. The purpose of this presentation is to train proctors and test managers in the compliance requirements for providing the IRI. Additionally, it is also important to identify consistent measures and preparations for each of our buildings to ensure that the IRI is granted the same affordability in each of our schools. The IRI began in 1999 when the Idaho State Legislature allocated monies for an exam to measure fluency throughout all of Idaho's students. Therefore, in grades kindergarten through third grade, we now have this measure of students' reading skills. The current exam will continue until next school year, where in the 2015 school year, the exam will be replaced with a new measure, not only measuring fluency, but also comprehension. You will notice on the schedule that several buildings are identified in blue. Those would be Atlas, Winton, Skyway, Bryan, Dalton, and Bora elementary schools. Those buildings have chosen to conduct testing solely in their building without the use of outside proctors. The exam schedule then has been adjusted to be able to meet those buildings' desires for testing. Students may begin testing on April 8th, but all testing district-wide must be completed by May 9th, with all scores reported to the Idaho State Department of Education by the 3rd of June in 2014. The Idaho Reading Indicator is given in several subtexts. In the fall and spring in kindergarten, a letter name fluency exam will be followed by a letter sound fluency exam. In grade 1, students begin with letter sound fluency and continue into the reading curriculum-based measure. In grades 2 and 3, the reading curriculum-based measure is granted to In order to proctor the exam, you will need to have a name tag, a stopwatch, pencils, a clipboard, and possibly a calculator. If you are a district-provided proctor, you will have a bag which will have all of those materials available to you. Please, however, also become familiar with the scoring rules and the proctor training manual. The manual may not be posted on any of our intranet sites. Therefore, please contact Mike Nelson via email at testing@cdaschools.org if you do need an advanced copy. Upon beginning the Idaho Reading Indicator, please check in to the main office by 8:30 in the morning and check in with the lead proctor for that building. The lead proctor may be a district-provided proctor, or it may be the Title I teacher in the building. Please identify that person, as they should be leading a proctor training meeting before the beginning of the exams. At that time as well, the lead proctor will also identify where proctors should be located and an approximate testing time for these students. Please also note, we do build in time so that proctors can be familiar with their students. Please estimate that each kindergarten exam will take up to 10 minutes, as you'll want to orient the student to the exam. You'll want to make them feel comfortable and get to know them a little bit more. As the exam should be very familiar to students in grades 1 through 3, we estimate approximately 8 minutes per exam. As you begin your testing environment, please set up one individual table for one student and one proctor. Ideally, these should be in a quiet environment, free of distractions. Also, it is recommended that proctors stay with particular grade levels. For instance, a proctor may give all of the kindergarten exams or the first grade exams. or several proctors may join as a team to be able to do that. That is to ensure inter-rater reliability, whereby the test is administered the same way to all students. You may also note that students may have difficulties in pronouncing letters correctly. If a student has imperfect pronunciation due to a dialect, an articulation, or if they're a student whereby English is their second language, they may not be penalized for those errors. Moreover, this is about creating relationships and allowing students to do their best work. Start off by ensuring that the student is comfortable. It is also important for our district to reach out to our patrons as they continue to support us throughout the passage of levies and support students in their buildings throughout the year. This information is also available to our parents and guardians and will be sent out to them approximately 2 weeks before the start of testing. I'd like to take a few moments to talk to you about where our district stands on the Idaho Reading Indicator. We are extraordinarily proud of the teachers in our district and the students who work so hard to achieve to their highest potential. Coeur d'Alene School District, for the past 4 years and into the future, is the highest achieving school district in the state of Idaho. You can see, in fact, that no district comes even close to us in terms of what was measured on the ISAT. As we compare to the IRI, we see similar strengths, whereby from 2006 and on, our students in kindergarten greatly outperformed their peers throughout the state. But you'll notice something happening in first grade, second grade, and in third grade. We still outperform the peers. However, we do fall back. We've been tinkering with things over the past several years to find out why that would be the case. And last year, giving buildings more autonomy to be able to complete the exams paid off well for our students. So therefore, buildings again have greater autonomy to be able to administer the tests in ways that still meet the requirements of the state of Idaho, but yet maintain the qualities of what they've been doing throughout the entire year. So, let's take a look at our first exam. For kindergartners. Kindergartners will start off with an exam in letter naming fluency. Each of the students will have a blank copy of the exam with them. Each of the exams will be labeled with the student's name. Please make sure that the student's name is the same as the student in front of you. Place that student copy in front of the student. There will be a duplicate copy available for you to be placed on your clipboard. The copy for the student will be in a spiral-bound notebook. The copy for you will be in a stapled sheet of paper. Please read the directions from the testing manual verbatim. The directions can be found on Info Center under the Teaching and Learning heading, District Assessments, and Idaho Reading Indicator. Once the directions are clear with the student, please consider checking for understanding. Only when the student places their finger on the first letter and utters their first letter will you start the stopwatch. Please note that if there's a 3-second pause, redirect the student to the next letter, point to it, and identify the question, "What letter?" If a student gives you a sound, unfortunately, they will have to be marked incorrectly. For any errors that a student makes, simply put a slash on that letter. You are not required to put any other marks other than the slash. When the timer elapses at 1 minute, please stop the stopwatch and thank the student for doing their best. Let's take a look at a video from the Idaho State Department of Education that identifies these practices.
Coeur are some letters. Begin here and tell me the names of as many letters as you can. If you come to a letter you don't know, I'll tell it to you. Are there any questions?
No.
Put your finger under that first letter. Ready? Begin.
F H W Y B X G M S U Z Q H K V S O Z
G
C D A U F Y E T Q Z G J V G H E T
Stop there.
Taken by kindergarten students, and the first exam for first grade students is letter sound fluency, whereby a student is asked to identify as many hard sounds as they can in 1 minute time. Place the spiral-bound copy in front of the student and the matching copy on the clipboard. Please also note when you are marking errors, please keep those as minimal as possible. In other words, you do not want to make large notes or scratching sounds during the exam to be able to disrupt the student. Once the student identifies their first sound, please start the stopwatch. If at any time that a student is distracted or does not understand a sound, redirect them to the next sound and simply ask, "What sound?" At the very end of the exam, you'll put an end bracket to identify as many sounds as the student attempted during the 1 minute time. Here's example what it looks like from the Idaho State Department of Education.
Here are some letters. Begin here and tell me the sounds of as many letters as you can. If you come to a letter you don't know, I'll tell it to you. Are there any questions?
No.
Put your finger under that first letter. Ready? Begin.
E. Yeah. W. E. O. 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 G. J. E. U. O. J. E. Yeah. D.
What sound?
D.
Stop.
Is the reading curriculum-based measure, which is given in grades 1 through 3. The goal of this passage is to identify as many words as possible in 1 minute of time. This follows the same procedure. Please place the student copy in front of them, it's the spiral-bound copy, and place the examiner copy in your clipboard. A student should never see their student record, and no scores should ever be shared with students during or after the exam. Please start your stopwatch and place a slash through any incorrect words. At the end of the 1 minute time, please put an end bracket. We'll talk about scoring in just a moment. Let's take a look at how it looks according to the Idaho State Department of Education.
When I say begin, start reading aloud at the top of this page.
Okay.
Read across the page. Try to read each word.
Okay.
If you come to a word you don't know, I'll tell it to you.
Okay.
Be sure to do your best reading.
Okay.
Are there any questions?
No.
Okay, go ahead and begin.
Dad and Rob went fishing. We will catch fish to eat for lunch, said Dad. They loaded their fishing things into the boat. Poles, bait, life jackets, and a net. Let's catch a fish, said Rob. Dad made a boat go fast over the water. Rob liked feeling the wind in his hair. He liked feeling the cold water splashed his face. Soon they arrived at Dad's secret fishing spot. Dad took a minnow to put it on his hook. The big fish tried to eat the little fish. Then we will catch him.
Stop.
You may have times during the Idaho Reading Indicator whereby the exam must be accommodated to meet the needs of students. There is only one accommodation that cannot be granted to any student under any circumstances, and that is changing in the timing of the exam. No matter what, all students who submit to the IRI are granted 1 minute of time. However, based on student need and identified in an IEP or 504 document, a student may be placed in an alternate location to minimize distraction, or they may be tested by a familiar person, interpreter, or specialist. Again, that must be identified before the IRI begins, and it must be identified in a 504 or IEP. Additional accommodations now appear on the screen. After the assessment has completed, let's excuse the students so that they can resume their time in their classroom. On the examiner copy, there will be a small colored sheet that corresponds to the student's grade level. That sheet has been placed with a label. Please carefully remove the upper portion of the label, which still leaves the examiner copy together. That exam will be scored based on the information provided, and either the Title I teacher, an assistant, or office personnel will pick those cover sheets up for scoring. Please keep the exams secure at all time. When the exams are in your presence, they are official and therefore must be maintained securely. Final reminders. The timer should never be visible to students. In addition, the scoring sheet should never be in view of students. If a student would like to know their score, simply state, "I'm sorry I can't do that, but you really did your best." Also, yes, this is not a speed reading exam. However, the proctor should never tell students to slow down during the exam. In fact, a student should never be interrupted during that 1 minute time, other than to be redirected by the proctor to say what letter, what sound, or what word. Please read the script thoroughly. There is a statement in the RCBM that identifies that this is not a speed reading exam. Please also know that proctors may need to be mobile. We may need to move proctors to different buildings or to different locations within a building to be able to complete testing on time. I'd like to thank you for your attentiveness, and at this time, please follow the prompts on the screen to sign your proctoring agreement. Have a great day.